My name is Shannon Ragland Lake, Georgia Advocacy Chair for the Arthritis Foundation. So I was familiar with Georgia Bio just because my background is in neuroscience. Dorothy Lewin Glasser, who organized this, she is who tapped me for my position at Arthritis Foundation. She left after 38 years of advocacy, so she could focus on the RX and Reach Coalition. During COVID, we had this virtually, so it's really cool to get to be in the same room with everyone and have advocates and stakeholders all in one room. So the disease area that I personally advocate for is juvenile arthritis. I got sick when I was 10 years old. I was diagnosed when I was 13, and I'm now 50. And over decades, I've gone through 14 biologics, and only 2 have worked. And the second one that worked, I was pulled off of because I lost my health insurance because they pulled out of the state of Georgia for the individual market. I had to find a new carrier. I had to go on my husband's insurance, and they didn't cover the medicine that worked for me. So I got sick again, and I had to leave my job. So I got mad. So here I am. I also, though, was just diagnosed 2 years ago with another disease under the Arthritis Foundation umbrella, which is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So it's hEDS. And it's a genetic disorder. It's considered to be rare, but I don't think it's as rare as it was thought to be. And it's very complex. It involves a lot of different systems, but at the core, what it does is it causes faulty connective tissue. So since connective tissue, well, connects all your joints and organs and everything together, it has a lot of symptoms. So I've had symptoms since I was a child, and it was actually why I dropped out of graduate school back in 99, 2000. So yes, I finally got diagnosed. It took me, I was 48 when I got diagnosed, which is wild. And then my best friend got diagnosed with it. We were both dancers as children. So she and I both have had hip replacements in the last 5 years, which is crazy. Actually, I helped her get diagnosed because I said, you have all the same things I have. And she went to MUSC and got diagnosed. I had to go to Tulane to get diagnosed because there's not a lot of doctors in Georgia that understand Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Well, the first time I had symptoms that were a real problem, I was 10 years old, and I was traveling with my family. Actually, I was in Paris, and I was in a museum. I was in the Louvre, and my knee blew up. When we got home, my mom took me to a orthopedic guy, and he drained my knee and immobilized it and sent me back to dance. So I continued to have pain and swelling for several years. And finally at 13, I injured myself, and I had to have surgery on my knee. And they discovered that I had juvenile arthritis. And so I started medication right away, but at the time there wasn't a lot of great medication, especially not for children. So I really didn't start aggressive treatment until about age 20 in 1995. I was at Vanderbilt University. I was pre-med. I'd had to drop pre-med because my health was acting up so badly. And I was using forearm crutches to walk. And so my parents, for spring break, I got to go to Mayo Clinic Jacksonville, which was a very cool, very special college spring break. And I got to see specialists, but it was life-changing. It was a really important moment because that was when we started getting more aggressive with my treatment. Biologics came out when I was 23, and that was the first drug, the first biologic that was approved for my disease was also the first treatment that caused me to go into remission. And I was in remission for 2 years. So during that time, I attempted to try to go to grad school, and I had all these EDS symptoms that I didn't know were EDS symptoms flared up. So I had heart, lung, and neuroimmune symptoms, and we never figured out the cause of it until 2 years ago. So my patient experience has been highly varied. I've been to many different doctors. And they are so variable. I would say that the most important thing for patients to do is to educate themselves, learn as much as you can about your condition. Counter to popular belief, I am pro social media. I am all for support groups that are online, especially for rare disease. That's the only way you're going to find someone. You're going to find other patients with the same problem. And what's really cool about that is that because the internet, because online communities are global, I've gotten to meet rheumatologists from New Zealand. I've had deep conversations with German rheumatologists, English rheumatologists, I mean, from around the world. And I've also learned from other patients. And, we find that if many of us have similar symptoms, then maybe that's something that should be looked at. So we bring those to our doctor. I think it also helps when you have other patients who are friends and you can compare your experiences, then you can have the confidence when you go back to talk to your doctor to advocate for yourself, to say, this is an issue and it isn't just me. I feel like that is somewhat of a protection against being gaslit. I know doctors don't mean to do that, but sometimes it happens, especially with rare diseases. I would say overall, my patient experience has been probably somewhat irregular because I've seen a lot of different doctors over decades, and I've been sick long enough to experience the medical system before biologics and the medical system after. The medical system before the ACA, the medical system after, and then the medical system before COVID and the medical system after. My perspective is probably a little different than many patients. There's a tendency among physicians and especially specialists to believe that they know more about a particular condition. And I will say that after I've lived with juvenile arthritis for 40 years, and unknowingly living with hypermobile EDS for more than 40 years, we live with this every day. I know it's very tempting to say, oh, you just Dr. Googled that. But my answer would be listen to us, because you may be missing something. You never know. And the only way you find out is if you listen to patients and you trust us. One of my conditions, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobile EDS, has traditionally been believed to be rare, like the other 12 types of EDS. We currently don't have a genetic screening for it, unlike the other 12. So it is very, very woefully underdiagnosed. Back in 2017, when the last guidelines were crafted, it was believed that it was 1 in 5,000. And now, looking forward to the next 2 years when they'll be coming out with new guidelines, some newer studies are showing that it may be 1 in 500. It might even be more common than that. It might be 1 in 300. One of my doctors, my doctor who diagnosed me, he believes there may be millions, like many millions of Americans with this condition, and many of us are being dismissed. We are being told that we have fibromyalgia, that we have ME/CFS, which is very similar to long COVID, actually. I have a lot of long COVID symptoms, actually, but it's part of my EDS. We really need a genetic test in order to really know the true prevalence and incidence of EDS, hypermobile type. And we also need to get to the bottom of it. We need to find a cause. We need to find treatments, because due to healthcare being so siloed, I've been seeing specialists of all types my entire life, and no one has put together the pieces. I had to put together the pieces. I met other patients with this during my advocacy, and they said, what you have sounds a lot like EDS. And it took me about 7 years to finally pursue a diagnosis, because I had to find a doctor who knew anything about it. I definitely feel like things are changing, but I think that this is something that is not on the radar of biotech um, and the pharmaceutical industry at large. Some people are not very disabled by it, and then others are very disabled by it. My friend who came to see me today, to see me talk, she's from my hypermobile EDS support group, which is online. I met her outside the Georgia State Capitol in 2018. We were protesting the new limitations on pain medications. This is the first time I've seen her since COVID, but we see each other online on Zoom once a month. We have something organized for about an hour of that time, and then the next 2 hours is just open for patients to talk amongst themselves. So patients, we are working hard to find solutions, and I just want to make y'all aware that we need solutions. We need to find out the cause and figure out how to fix it.